I am here in Dallas City, Illinois, along the Mississippi River and standing right by what was formerly known as Ike's Tavern, formerly because it is no longer in business and is now for sale. The road I was walking on today, including Ike's, has found itself under varying degrees of water over the last however many years. Back in 2008, we had one of our last rounds of flooding, and I know there's been flooding since then, but it was in 2008 that I really saw the Mississippi floodwaters for what they were and the damage they could cause. Up until then, what I'd seen with floodwaters was, dramatic stuff where they'll come in and bury houses and, feet of water. And, some of that happened a little bit, but more of what happened was just water coming up to a house and then getting up about 6 inches and then just sitting there. And I realized the destructive power of 6 inches of water in a house, the mud it could bring in, the wet, the way the drywall would suck it up, and the mold. And, in terms of the destructive power of flooding, you could have two houses sitting right next to each other, and one is just 6 inches higher than the other, and that's all it took to really cause a disaster, or to avoid one, I should say. So that little detail is something that really kind of, again, left an impression on me. And on in some ways, I think it's a bit of an allegory for life too. Disasters can happen because of little changes one way or another. Sometimes you just don't know where that's going to come from, or what details you're missing, and how that can impact you. And now, having said all that, that could send you into a whole fit of anxiety, and I get that. But one of the things that Jesus reminds us of is how he does not want us to be anxious about anything. I do not want you to be anxious about anything. If we paid attention to all of the little details in our lives, all of the things that could potentially go wrong, we drive ourselves nuts. And I know that happens to a lot of people. So what keeps us from driving nuts, from being driven nuts, I should say, or even driving others nuts by our anxieties, is a deep reliance on Christ, a deep trust in the providence of God, in his abiding love for us, in who he is as Father, and how nothing happens to us except that he directly causes it or he allows it. And in all of it, he is Father and knows us and loves us and desires us to be his children and to become more and more the image, the fullness of what that means to be his child. So to that end, regarding the little details of life, what's asked of us, I think, is just that we would turn to him and say, Lord, everything's in your hands. I trust it all to you. I know it's all for my good. I would ask that you would give me a confidence in your love, a trust, a serenity in dealing with all these things, because there's so many of them and so many little details, so many 6-inch gaps that I can't control, and just put it in his hands and let him take care of it. Requires a little bit of work, but with his grace, with his support, we can do it, and not be troubled by the 6 inches that could cause us disaster, because there's a whole heck of a lot of them out there. You all take care.